think you can play around with vibe coding and push it pretty far. For someone that doesn't want to learn engineering, it's amazing. The fact that with someone with no design experience, no game development experience, has done this in like 4 months, I would imagine best case scenario, this is, a few $100,000 and, at least a year and a half, if you're coding at all. It's like solving a problem that I have specifically, which is I want to learn a language. I want to make it more fun. I want to have productive downtime. And so I built something where I'm now actually getting the desired outcome. The goal is to like launch this on iPhone and Android and be like, on their app stores. I'm Max. I've sold a couple of companies, and I've been, I guess, for the last year plus, just been absolutely obsessed with AI and playing around with it. And right now I'm building an AI game studio where we use vibe coding to build the entire game. No engineering so far that's needed to build the entire game. And my current project is building games that teach language. So how do we get all the addictiveness of your favorite game with all of the benefit of your best language learning app, and using AI to kind of power that whole process.
Thank you so much for being here. This was such an interesting thing. This is definitely a very special intersection for me between kind of AI and gaming. I love seeing AI try to play games and learn to play games, Pokemon Go, whatever, Claude plays Pokemon Go. And this is the flip side of it. I did not expect this to emerge, this idea of vibe coding. I think Andre Carpathia was the first one to kind of like breathe life into it. And of course, it's a little bit controversial because there's some developers that just hate the term and they just like really are not happy with it. But we've seen some great games emerge, and you guys are producing some very interesting games. So we'd love to see them. I love the concept of the learning, but I guess let's get started. Just can you kind of show people what we're talking about? I think some people, if they haven't been paying attention, would be surprised to how this game works and looks like.
Yeah, I think the best way is just to show it. So let's share screen. The genesis of this was I can spend hours on my favorite game, but then when I was going to language learning things like Duolingo, Pimsleur, I was really struggling to spend 10 minutes, and I was like dying. So I was trying to find a gamified language learning option. And through the love of AI, I thought, why don't I just build it? So this game, it's a roguelike deck builder. I'm not sure if you've ever played a game like Slay the Spire or Hearthstone, Magic of the Gathering. It's inspired by those games, which are a little nerdy, but they're my type of games. So you've got a couple of characters that you can pick.
Is Balatro not a roguelike game?
Yeah, Balatro's in that category as well,
think that,
for sure.
Because that was huge very recently, right?
Yeah, totally. Like this category of games definitely been blowing up.
Yeah.
So this is kind of first character, Act 1, after the tutorial. But it's essentially a card game where you've got cards, you play them on your enemies and deal damage. But the unique twist is there's cards like this that have a benefit if you translate a word. So for example, you get this word, if you haven't encountered it before, you can get a hint, you learn the word, there's audio where you can practice the pronunciation. And at the end of every turn, you get a little bonus.
Can me and Dylan try, see if we get if we're able to translate it? Dylan, you want to take a shot at it?
You go first. I'm going to embarrass myself.
do you know?
Right now we're in Swedish.
Oh, okay, let's try Swedish.
We're in beginner Swedish.
My ancestors are Swedish. It should be in my genes somewhere.
Yeah.
You
want to take a stab?
Yeah.
No, I know. Well, no, I just how to pronounce it?
Well, or even translate it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess, but I don't know.
I'm going to guess or.
It is or. So this is, for example, easy mode, but then we've got an advanced mode where the translations, you have to like spell them or things like that. I've been learning Swedish basically through this. So I've learned my first few hundred words of Swedish through this. I'm just going to use some cheat codes to kind of show you different areas of the game. But then you can select a card at the end. So let's say we want this card. Now we're building our deck of cards and we're battling a variety of different monsters. And so the idea is you have to strategically build your deck. And a lot of these cards have these translate keyword, or enemies you'll eventually have to translate sentences, unscramble words, spell them. And so as the game progresses, the words that you've been encountering, you're going to have to use them in different kind of ways to, basically get through the game. Here's a shop where you can buy things with the gold that you've been earning. These are like permanent power-ups. Here is these specific lessons where you can kind of learn a little bit more about like sentence structure, words like that. And then you get a little quiz. If you get this right, then you win a really powerful power-up. I'm just going to get it wrong so that we can move through it. But I guess the idea is this has been entirely vibe coded. So
yeah,
like
can
all
you
of the
break
graphics
that down more? Because like when I think of vibe coding, I can sort of imagine going to, Claude or something or GPT-5 and saying, through a few prompts, do a couple things. But there's so much to this. There's graphics, like we're using like Midjourney and AI tools for the graphics too, or like how many hundreds of prompts has this taken? How are they broken down? Like what software are you using? Like tell us about how this is actually built from vibe coding.
Yeah. So this is about, it's about 3 to 4 months of like working full time myself, and then Danny, my partner, working part time on it as well. I mean, on a screen like this, basically most of what you see are individual assets. So we design the card on ChatGPT. Usually we're using a lot of ChatGPT for a lot of the core assets. Sometimes we do Midjourney, and then we turn Midjourney into ChatGPT as well. For like, I can tell you some of the ways that we use Midjourney, but most of the time ChatGPT. And then we're individually generating these images and basically turning this into a template and generating all the cards. This is an asset, this backing is an asset, the heart is an asset, the top banner is an asset. So I guess there's just a lot of little assets. And then this has got like slight animation on it, which are basically just stretching up and down. The one thing that we're not doing with AI, or we've tried to use AI, is these basically idle loops. So I have like some of these, I can like use AI to do these animations as well, where I can do start and end frame on Cling, break it down into individual frames, and then turn it into a sprite sheet. But the time that it takes and the results that you get from that, it's easier just to use an animator. So this specific animation, or if you look at this attack animation, that's actually just going to an animator to get that done. But other than that, everything else, this moth is something that we just designed using ChatGPT. And a lot of it is just like an interesting idea that I have and then going back and forth for a long time. Sometimes I'll go on Midjourney or Ideogram and generate like thousands of different enemies. And then I'll basically go of those 1,000 and maybe just say like generate a random monster that's unexpected result within this scope or this art style. And I just want to look at as many as possible. And for example, I'll show you like some of the more abstract, interesting. I'm going to just use a lot of cheat codes and bounce around the game, so a person wouldn't actually see this.
Because you have to have transparent backgrounds on that. I know you were doing it kind of manually, but could you in Cling get a transparent background?
Yeah, so the transparent backgrounds are difficult. So I would just do it on a green screen and then remove the green screen. So that was the way that I kind of did a workaround. But there isn't like a good tool right now for idle animations. So it's easier just to get the asset. I haven't tried nano-banana. Actually, I used the LM Arena nano-banana to see if I could do a basic sprite sheet. But it wasn't really, it's not worth the effort to get something average right now relative to the cost of finding an animator. But yeah, just to show you like these kind of more abstract ideas, I can generate thousands of ideas and then I can just pick, something that I find really interesting or visually interesting to add to the game as well. And similarly with the design of the cards, where I'll generate, thousands of cards and then I'll pick the 80 that I think makes sense. And then I'll run it through Grok 4 Heavy, 5 Pro or 03 Pro back in the day, just saying, are these balanced? Where are the synergies? What would you cut? And so I'll spend a lot of time with the models from like a game design perspective as well, where I can kind of really push the game. And then the other thing that I do a lot is I'll just take a screenshot of an entire page and then just say, improve the UI. It looks like a little cluttered to me. How would you improve it? And I usually use like a GPT-5 thinking right now. And just see what it does. Sometimes I'll say like, give me a few ideas first, and then I'll output an image on the idea that I think's best. But those are a lot of like the visual ways that I'm kind of using it to help design the game.
Could you elaborate on the balancing of the cards? Like, I know you were saying you were talking to the LMs about that. Do you actually have like a spreadsheet that balances out the 80 cards to make the game kind of even, and then you give it that exact math, or is it just conversational?
I have a spreadsheet with all the cards, and so I have like a project on GPT where it has like full context. Every enemy, every rune, right now we're 150 cards or something. I can't remember, like 50 runes, which are like, all so much complexity in the game. And so I want to find out, is anything imbalanced? Is anything, and honestly, its suggestions aren't perfect, but it often just alerts me to areas that I think are worth looking at. But in terms of like, I'm designing a new character right now for the game, and it's very good at, if it suggests 4 cards, one of the 4 might be a good card idea. And I've improved its thinking with like these projects that I'm using on GPT, where I've just kind of said, this is a good card, this is a bad card, explaining why. And now it's just getting better at like outputting things that are the types of things that I think are fun and going to work well in the game.
So you said GPT projects. So are you guys using Cursor in general, or you're pretty much keeping it within the chatbots themselves?
Well, we stop this for now. The coding's all done in Cursor. So yeah, like I guess the other thing that's maybe worth noting is how small details you do at the time. And I think that maybe is like the biggest mistake that me coming into like game design, where I'm like, make a Vampire Survivors clone. And it does like a pretty good, like pixelated, interesting thing. But then you're like, okay, now make like add 5 more enemies. But it's like, we will take an individual asset and say, move it by 5 pixels to the right. Like, we'll really break it down into a lot of small tasks. And so we understand probably where it's going to break with how much complexity you can give it per prompt. Sometimes when it understands and there's enough history, it can do a little bit more. But yeah, using all GPT, and we started it mostly using like, I think Gemini 2.5, and now I'm mostly using GPT-5 or Opus 4.1. And we're probably spending a few $1,000s a month on credits right now, just on Cursor.
Wow. Yeah. And so for people that maybe not familiar with Cursor, I mean, it's basically you can plug in any model, and Cursor is really just gives you kind of a development environment. So it's not super complicated. It used to be a lot harder, to where you had to learn quite a bit before you could create your own game. And now you can do it within 24 hours. Like if you've never coded before, you can jump in and start creating something. Especially if you're not adding graphics. Graphics, like you said, it's not complicated, but it's one more advanced step, I guess. And same with audio and stuff like that. But a simple game is super simple to make. Do you run into any issues where, this is what I ran into, because I created a game where it was an idle game. I used Midjourney to create the graphics, and so there's a character progressing, tons of enemies, so leveling up, etc. And so it's interesting because everything you're saying is what I've tried to do, like with balancing. I would just tell it within Cursor, it's still a little bit too hard, scale the enemies down. And it would do that. And it's so kind of iteratively doing that. And then with graphics, I would just do rectangular blocks. I wouldn't even bother with animations. Well, animations, they would kind of bounce up and down. So it looked, it looked okay. It looked fine. I thought it was cool. So I ran into an issue at some point, because I think it was just kind of getting out of hand, just too many things going on, to where it would rewrite huge blocks of code. I'm guessing that was just user error on my part. Maybe I wasn't organizing it properly I didn't have the proper structure, or maybe I said something wrong. Do you run into those issues? How do you get around that?
So you were using Cursor to do the game?
Yeah, I was using Cursor, and at the time, I don't know if I must have been using GPT-03, maybe. I don't recall, but one of the more advanced models.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely still happens a portion of the time. Like, a handful of things that we do is, one is trying to keep file sizes not too large. So, kind of the max, the number that we've found is somewhere around 5,000 lines. It's getting better now at 5,000 lines. So if for whatever reason your project was like very heavily in just like one core file and not like segmented and calling to other files, that would be an issue. I mean, another thing just in general in games is trying to like have core systems. So like you might have like a enemy special effects system and a whatever it is, a UI system for discarding cards. And you want to have that as like a building block so that the AI doesn't try to rewrite it every single time it calls for that. And it doesn't really look for pre-built systems a lot. Too often it can just continually rebuild. In terms of overriding stuff, I feel like Cursor is getting pretty good at that. Like we used to have that a lot. Now it's usually the number one reason is because of like large file size is where I see that, or maybe just using an older model. But if you're using like 4.1 or GPT-5, I haven't ran into that too much lately. Yeah, I mean, or it might have just been the degree to which you wanted the changes to be made. And so sometimes also if I'm doing a complicated feature, I would just take a stab at it, see where it breaks, and then come back, because Cursor's really good at just going back and say, do it again now, but like break it into 3 steps, or do it again, but be careful of this step. And then, so let's say, but don't delete this chunk of text. And then you go do it again and see where it messes up. So you just keep repeating the same step until you kind of think of all of the problems that it might make. That's sometimes been helpful to get through like a new feature like that.
Yeah, can you go into more depth on the version control? Like I'm sort of familiar with like using Git and having a few different versions or branches. Like, is that all, like, are you using exactly that system, or inside of Cursor, do you have a separate one, or does the AI kind of keep its own?
Yeah, we're just using Git, and we just say push to Git, and then it pushes to Git. So it's like it's nice that we can just chat to Cursor and it can do it, and we can also pull very easily just using natural language. Because every prompt you can kind of roll back to that checkpoint, and so sometimes I'll add in a new feature, and then I'll start playing the game, and I realize some things, totally broken, and I've gone a little bit progressed, and I've just figured out that mistake. So I can just click roll back to, and then try to like resolve that issue if I can't easily resolve it.
Will you prompt it so sort of similar in the sense like, I like the progress we made, but I just found out this thing's broken, roll back and keep this? Or
I don't think it would do a good job of that. Yeah, sadly, usually you just have to scrap what you've done, or if you can't solve it quickly, then you just scrap it and go back. And so, which is why, another prompt that I'll often do is like at the end of adding a new feature, I'll say, name everything that's been affected by the code so that I can test it. And so it will say, okay, these are the systems. So then I'll quickly like run through a test to see if anything's like looking weird or broken.
Yeah, and for people that don't know what Git is, GitHub, I mean, it's basically version control. If it sounds complicated, I mean, I often would use like something like GPT-4o to sit there and just talk to me while I'm doing, if I don't know something, there's some terminal command I'm not aware of or a bug, having it open a separate window just to kind of get some background knowledge is super helpful. So a lot of this stuff doesn't have to be complicated. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe you could even break down too, like, we kind of hear the word cursor. I know that means like you have sort of an IDE up on the screen, but like, what is cursor exactly? And like, why is it so much different than just coding it on, I don't know, another system? Like, what do you use in that tool?
I mean, why cursor over Claude Code or Lovable Bolts? That it is kind of, is that the question really?
I guess that'd be good, but also why any of those 3 tools? Like, what do they do for game development?
I mean, part of the reason why I'm using them is I don't know how to code. So I have to, like, I could learn to code, or I could learn Unity, or I can just jump straight in and just speak natural language. And so definitely, I love just how quick you can just move through these things and solve. And, they're all built for vibe coding, where you just can use natural language and build exactly, what you want. The reason why I would choose Cursor over the other options is, I guess, Claude Code, as far as I understand, you can't use all the other models. And so if Grok releases a better model or something like that, the cool thing with Cursor is it often just gets the models in straight away. It really does a good job of indexing a large code base. So it has a pretty good familiarity of all the systems in the code. And it's definitely getting better at dealing with like a complicated, large file structure. I've been like vibe coding games since, I guess, January this year or something. And the first game that I built was like a simple version of this game. This is actually my 4th iteration of this game. Each one has gotten progressively more complex. But that one was, I was having like so much issues where it would just delete code, it wouldn't understand code. It was honestly a nightmare. But now Cursor is getting really good at just, you know, not making these big mistakes and understanding code. And so it is very simple. It really is. Once you kind of understand how to connect a project and get it going, you literally just use natural language and you test models, and you can always roll back if nothing's working. So for someone that doesn't want to learn engineering, it's amazing.
Okay, this sounds so exciting. So is it also able to, so first off, what is your game actually programmed in? What language? And does it go out and get the packages and things for you? So if you want an effect, does it say, oh, I need to go install this dependency?
Yes. So we're using Phaser.js, which is just a JavaScript game framework, I guess. There's a few like frameworks that are good for 2D games where it makes it easier putting in like sprite sheets, or they might have like sparkle animations, or like the other thing is we're building this as a mobile game. So right now it's on test flight and I can run it as an iPhone app. And so the goal is to like launch this on iPhone and Android and be like, on their app stores. And it just makes it a lot easier using a system that's already built as opposed to just not having one. Was there another part to your question? I forgot.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. Does it go out and tell you about dependencies also? Like if you have a way to solve a problem, do you kind of have to be familiar with what tools are out there and what you want installed? Or is it actually like, oh, you want to do a cool effect? Here's a package I recommend. I'll install it for you and show you.
It does it. It definitely uses some of its tools some of the time. Like, for example, if you get hit and there's a screen shake or something like that, every now and then it does that without me. Like I'll say like something like, I want an animation to show that the player's been hit, maybe they'll flash red or something. And it will be like, oh, we did this screen shake from the Phaser.js. But every now and then it'll pull things. And if you remember in the map screen, there's like particles flying around, and that it found as well. So sometimes you can just ask for, I would say it's like a 6 out of 10 for like finding the relevant, package that it has access to. I think you need to ask if there is something that fits that purpose and then trial a few suggestions. I went on the Phaser.js site to try to read some of the like aspects that it could add into the game, but it was just too much. And like there was too like nuanced and specific that I kind of gave up and just more relying on it figuring it out, or models just getting better so that they can kind of solve for that.
And I'm kind of curious, like the first day you sat down, was that some of the first questions you asked? Like, what language do I build this in? And did it kind of help you through all of that too? Or was that kind of a traditional ChatGPT question? Or did you lean on some developers in Google?
That was Danny. So Danny had been like playing around, and so we connected because I'd like you, Wes, I'd seen his work and he'd been going viral. And of all of the vibe coders out there, he was like the only vibe coder that was making games where I was like, I actually liked his game. Like I played it for 20 minutes. I was like, I would actually want to continue playing this. And it wasn't good for a vibe coded game. It was a good game. And that so that was pretty cool. And he'd been playing around. And so I think he just had figured out like what is a good platform that will work well for Cursor. And so it was his suggestion to use Phaser.
Interesting. I mean, they're pretty good about selecting based on your initial prompt what language to write it in usually, right? It kind of is pretty good at picking the right one.
I think so. But I think if you have awareness, another one is called Love 2D, which is what Balatro was actually coded in, by the way, that roguelike.
Interesting.
And so I think if you have awareness of the platform and understand that it's going to be good for Cursor right from the start, I think it might make sense to choose, one of those. Yeah, I think like Love or Phaser are probably the ones that you would do 2D games with. A lot of people do 3JS as well for games as well. And I'm excited to see where that evolves as well. Will that be the platform, or will there be like an MCP for Unity or Unreal or something? I'm not sure. But definitely keeping my eyes on, can we get to 3D games? And I'd love to build something in that space too.
As far as the larger frameworks and some of the ones that even cost money at a certain point, like Unity, does it work with those kind of things, or because they're a little bit proprietary, does it sort of stay away from them?
I followed a guy online who is building a game entirely with vibe coding on, I think it was Unity. But he definitely had more developer knowledge and game design knowledge than I do. So, um, you know, I, from my level of developer knowledge, it would not be viable for me. But I think he had like ideas of what needed to be done within like the code structure. So I'd say for now, unless you're currently like a Unity developer, probably not. But it looks like it's going to get there at a certain point. I know, yeah. Well, I know Elon's building this like game, like AI studio, and I think that his belief is going to get there pretty soon, like sometime mid next year.
I believe it because I mean, we've seen like Blender and MCP, so where Claude was able to connect to Blender and create 3D shapes. So I think with Unity and stuff like that, it seems like it's just that we need some sort of connection, like an MCP or something, and then it's going to get a lot more viable. The stuff through Cursor is just text, right? Just code. So I've heard about XAI. It's going to be under XAI umbrella. I think their video game company. I can't wait because like a lot of the stuff, it seems like it's just getting so much better. Like all the issues that we were complaining and struggling with 6 months ago, 10 months ago, a lot of them are a lot better now with vibe coding and all of that stuff. It's moving so fast. GPT-5 at its best creates incredible code. Have you messed around with GPT-5? You've mentioned that you did that. So what's your impression about like what's the best coder right now? What's the best model?
I mean, it's GPT-5 High Max on or 4.1 Opus Max. Is like if you've got a really hard problem, those are the models that you use. And I don't know if you just saw, but Sonnet now has a 1 million token context window in Cursor as well. So that's also useful as well for kind of certain use cases.
Does having a 1 million context window mean that it can hold your whole code base? Like this whole game you've built, how many lines of code do you think it is? Or if you're like in your cursor, how many folders and files and things in general with something? Yeah, like with some, I'm trying to imagine if it could actually imagine having like the entire game in your short-term memory, like something a human could never do if it's like actually starting to be at that level.
Yeah, it sort of probably reaches a limit as you get more complex. So that's why the structure is so important. But also,
I would imagine where like, sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say like all this is like little hacks that in a year or two, I think nobody's going to remember it because it's just going to work. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. I would imagine we're hundreds of thousands of line of code and it doesn't fit within the context window yet. We'll see if I'll put in a prompt and we'll see if anything useful or interesting comes back.
Okay. I'm also kind of curious, with 4 months of building a game and working really hard at it, that does kind of feel like enough time that you might, like living that life, sort of learn how to code and be a gamer. Do you still feel like the vibe coding is what you do, or do you kind of feel like you're an intermediary game developer now? Like, did you have to actually learn the code to work with it, or did you stay abstracted from it?
Definitely abstracted. Like, I think that what I'm learning is, a lot about game design. And so I've been reading a lot about game design and speaking to game designers, learning about just like, for example, what I was talking about, like reusable building blocks or like a file architecture or UI things. So a lot of like the things around the development, I feel like I've been learning a lot on. Had I built this project again, I definitely would take a more intelligent approach with these tools, thinking about the structure, doing the design work, understanding like which layer to build from. But I still see myself as like an advanced vibe coder as opposed to like a 0% developer and like becoming a more advanced vibe coder where I can tackle a complicated vibe coding problem. And I've now got like this arsenal of tactics. One thing that happens with vibe coding is you eventually get to like a hurdle that you just can't get through. You try it from one angle, you try it from another angle. And so another thing is just like thinking about all of the different strategies to get through like that. And there's no, the answers are like not that impressive, but it's just like keep thinking of different ways to like prompt or get around it when you can't solve something with just natural language.
Have you got to a hurdle where you had to pay a developer for a few hours of time to fix it for you? And have you ever had a developer look at your code base? Do they think it's clean enough to understand, or are they like, oh my God, this is the messiest thing I've ever seen in the world? How does it work?
We did get to one issue that we couldn't solve, and we hired a developer to fix it. And then they didn't fix it. And then we eventually figured out a vibe coding solution. And so we paid like $1,000. Guy took like a few days. Basically, didn't influence it at all. The issue was like a memory issue where it was resetting on phones because we were like holding too many assets in the RAM, and like older phones were like constantly resetting. And it's a simple thing had you known game development to not do, but we made like a rookie mistake. And then we just kind of did it section by section, and that got it resolved. But yeah, usually it's all solvable. Just yesterday, I think, or today, like you get a problem where you get stuck on it for an hour, but then one idea is just to say, delete all the code related to this and rebuild it, and try to get it right. Or another thing would be like, you get like GPT-5, Opus, Sonnet, Gemini, say, what do you think? Double check their ideas. What do you think? Like, it's like a brain trust of models all coming together to try to think of a solution of every possible problem, and then try to get like an Opus to solve it. And usually, if you're persistent enough, you'll figure out what the bug was and move through it.
Yeah. We talked to the founder of AI Village, who is now getting all these games all these models like Grok and Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT-5 to go online and do various things using computer use, Anthropic's computer use. So they're playing games. They're playing Minesweeper and Sudoku and whatever, the Wordle, all of that stuff, by navigating the computer like you and I would, keyboard and mouse. And, you can see the progress that these are making. I can't wait till we get to the point where they can troubleshoot a lot of these games, right? So you sort of shove them in some virtual machine, and they go through, they click on everything, and they're like, well, I keep beating everybody with the mage character, so it's like OP, let's nerf that, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, give you feedback on that. Because, you can go to sleep and have them work on it, and kind of come back, the next day and have some feedback and stuff like that. Where do you think we are in terms of the model being able to give you feedback, like you said, with the balancing issues, with telling you what things to improve? Like, how much of it is you driving it versus it maybe intelligently being able to improve when prompted to?
I'd say right now it's really coming from me. Like, I would say like 5 Pro, Grok 4 Heavy, or maybe like some of the first models where I'm like, oh, these are good suggestions for like the game that I really want to add. Before that, every now and then a good suggestion would come through, but it was more, I would drive it and kind of work with it tangential, maybe get a few ideas here or there, or work on my ideas. But I definitely feel like now it's coming up with like good game ideas, or like a new enemy idea, or implementing like a new language learning lesson in the game. But it's still far away from taking the complexity of the game and being iterative to the point where it can go, here are ideas. I feel like I do a lot of like AI music as well. And I feel like the new Suno is gotten almost so good that it's now like music's going to be more about like taste, where it's like,
right,
you can generate every type of song incredibly like well, and so it's going to be more about like your taste for what you want to hear and kind of prompting your way to get there. Whereas the games, it's still far away from like just taste. It's a lot of like just kind of grunt work to like get it there today. And I'm excited for when it gets that path, but it feels like we're still a little bit away from that.
Oh, I would love to hear more about the music process too, because I have used Suno to make songs, but is that your only tool? And especially in games, it feels like so many things need to be kind of like looped or atmospheric or programmed in a way where they appear at the right time for the storyline. Like, tell me everything about how your music creation process looks.
Well, for one, like sound effects, we use 11 labs. So, and it's just spinning it enough times with enough variations of language, and eventually find a sound effect that feels good. For music, I actually use the feature where you can like hum a beat, and then you can turn your hum into a song. So like, I had like a riff in my head, and then I hummed it out, and then I prompted it, and then I got basically exactly what I wanted. Like the intro music is exactly like this beat that I had in my head that I thought would be a good vibe for it. So I mean, Suno is amazing. And then just from a music perspective, I'll sometimes spend, an hour or two working with the GPT to write a lyric that I'm excited about. And then I'll just spin it a few hundred times, and then eventually I'll get a sound that I like. And then you can kind of cover that song that you like to just keep respinning it with different variations of that song. And then finally you can go in the producer mode and actually change section by section. I'm not sure if you guys have played around with the producer mode yet. And they're about to roll out a new like deeper version of the producer.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. Suno 4, not sponsored by them, but man, they produced some good stuff. They really captured something.
Can you fill me in on producer mode? I'm not familiar with it.
You probably messed around with it more than I have. I did just a little bit, and yes, but like, if maybe you can fill people in.
I mean, is it? Yeah, what kind of tools do producer? Is that how you would make a loop, like a song that can play in a loop forever without a break?
Well, the way that I do a loop is just prompting a loop where I would just say, hey, like make it so that the start and end loop together, and just try to do it. I'd say make a 1 minute loop about X and try to do it. But for music, I mean, do you want me to visually show you guys?
Yeah, sure. And my experience was that with the producer, basically within Suno, you know how you have the different sort of portions of it. Like, I don't know my music terms, but you have your intro, your chorus, your whatever. Yeah. So just kind of visualize that, and you're able to like move stuff around, reformat, like you want a different chorus, or okay, there we go.
So, I mean, here you've got like the lyrics, the style, but then you can kind of take a section, you can change the lyrics, you can replace it as well. And so I can kind of run a replacement, listen to different alternatives. So if I don't like the intro, I don't like the outro, I can chop it up, and then I can save this all as stems and then bring it into these kind of AI music produced programs where then I can play around with the drums, the guitar, the bass, everything like that. So I usually play around with it until I've got it as close as I want here. And then you can now save just the vocals, warp them, change that, move it a little bit.
Third atlas of the same journey.
I don't know if you can hear this.
Your friends were still at A&E from the reception.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the idea. Yeah, it basically, again, it's the same thing where it's like, I've been making music for 15 years. I've been writing songs, but I just didn't want to. I've learned Ableton, but it's just, to get the sound out of your head onto that, Ableton is so difficult. And so this is just making it so much easier for me to, within a day, I can get a song out where I'm like, that's pretty close to how I want it and feel it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is so inspiring to hear how you're building games. I'm feeling like more empowered than I ever have. Like, I didn't realize you can connect all of these things together and they're as advanced as they are. So if you have a monster and he swings a sword and needs to yell something, how do you do that? Like, are you then going to 11 Labs and saying like, give me an ogre grunt and then an axe swing and getting a sound effect that's usable out of that?
I'll share again.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. No, please share.
They have a whole sound effects thing now and a whole music thing. 11 Labs is really building it out. That's what I used, and it's pretty good.
Dude, we need some effects for our podcast, Wes. Like, burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Womp,
womp.
Intro music for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you can see like magic timer ticking down and getting more intense, 5 seconds. You can see I've just spun this a handful of times, and then you get these little samples. You hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You get some weird ones.
Yeah.
There's like this is like when you're selecting your starting bonus. So.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You get the idea where often if I can't think of the idea, I can go to ChatGPT to get the prompt ideas, reward screen, magical explosion. This is the one I think that I picked. That's like when you unlock something, and so there's just this little explosion and like a burst of sparkles. So yeah, a lot of these sound effects, we just prompt it with natural language.
Can you show us your hum, or is that embarrassing? The hum turned into
the
song?
hum.
the raw audio.
It's okay if not. That's definitely something.
It's really
cringy,
out of tune and raw, but it's pretty cool how close it was to what I heard in my head. Let's see if I can dig it up.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're not comfortable, don't
a little while
don't.
to find it.
It's okay.
You don't do it if you're not comfortable. But the thing is, I think
if you find it, but it's just so because I can definitely imagine people being silly in the shower and then taking that over to a tool like this.
For artists, that's interesting to see that like progress. Like, look, this is like I made this from these like raw resources. Yeah, it's incredible to see. Like when it comes together, like that feeling is magical. Because when you're working on it, it's like, oh, it's this. But then you put all the pieces together and boom, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's so good. I've got the original hum.
Okay,
and then
cool.
I'll show you what it can. So
nice.
Okay, now we have the real version.
Captures it perfectly, yeah.
And then this is the next bit.
Wow.
It's perfect, right? Like, I mean, way better than my hum, but you can see how I had that vision and it got mapped just from that hum.
I mean, really the only people who could create music like this in the past, usually they were, like Hans Zimmer or someone, where they could hum it out and they had all the different tools and the orchestra and the people around them to create something like that. That's crazy that you can actually be the conductor of so much in your own head today with tools that exist for everyone.
And
it's so fun.
I guess, so let me just show people the Nightfalls, the Vampire Survivors game I made, because I just wanted to give a comparison, because I did it very, very quickly. It's just I was shooting a video. So this is what you can do quickly. And then the graphics, the polish, the levels, that's, building on top of it. But like within the hour, let me see if I can share my screen here. 1 second. And I can show people just so people get an idea. And I did very similar. So I used cursor. So this is an hour and a half of work, maybe an hour or so. So sound effects, the shooting, the reloading, all of that is done. All of that is done with 11 Labs. The music was done either 11 Labs. I think it was 11 Labs that did it. Although now I'm going to start using Suno. So you can see here, it's got, I'm clicking on my screen here.
It's hard to hear you now. It's like pretty loud.
Gotcha. Okay, 1 second. Just I want to show you one thing. And I'm able to, here, I forgot I added this mechanic. Fresh meat. Okay. I'm going to end right there. Gosh. Just let me turn this off. So basically what I want to do.
For an hour and a half, that was pretty developed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's got those mechanics where you're able to dash, and it's got the cooldowns. Then the boss appears like fresh meat. So that's all 11 Labs, 11 Labs sound effects, voices, music. Although music, again, Suno, I think if I redid it, I would do it Suno. That was super simple. I feel like, to me, the graphics is where the complexity is added. It seems like. Would you agree with that, or?
It is. I think that's the thing that really it gives the wow factor to a game is like sprite sheets, so or like animations and things like that. And so it's just figuring out, whether buying an asset pack and bringing that in or something like that. Yeah.
Can you walk us through that process? So like the same way you did with audio, like what is I don't know, if you have the idea for an animation in your head, how do you go about it exactly?
So like some of our animations are, just like motion or like simple animations, twisting, things like that, enlarging. But if we wanted
like the plant that was kind of like bouncing back and forth and kind of looped.
Well, that actually is an animator. And so those ones we're just sending to like I was saying earlier, it's just easier to send it to an animator, and we pay like, negligible amount of money, I don't know, $30 or something per animation, and they make like a 1-second loop. And it really brings the game alive. There's a lot of things like when you get hit, there's like a hit effect, and it's just a sprite sheet that we've downloaded from somewhere. A lot of those sprite sheets are often free for like a hit effect. And so we have a variety of different power-ups, and depending on how powerful it is, there might be like a circle appears you if it's like shield, like block related, and it kind of like flashes, and or you get wings when you like do this kind of like permanent upgrade for the battle. And some of those are just from sprite sheets that we just find online as well and set it in the right place. If we want like something custom that we've designed specific for the game in our art style, exactly to our theme, then we just generate the images. But the idea is theoretically there's going to be a nano-banana, 2, where it's going to be able to do frame by frame. And a few sprite sheets I've done in the game, I've just done like manually, and I've just generated like 8 sprites, one after the other, and turned it into a sprite sheet.
What's the final file that comes out for those sprite sheets?
So often it's just a big PNG,
Okay.
sometimes with a .json explaining the size of each frame and the frame rate of the actual sprite sheet.
Okay,
so that way Cursor can just look at the JSON and understand how it works as well. But it doesn't necessarily need that too. And another thing that we've learned is if you get the sprite sheet too large, it will break on mobile as well. So you have to you learn these little things.
But I'm guessing even one little hallucination or error in the sprite sheet's JSON file means that the sprite doesn't display pixel perfect, right? So is it pretty accurate at that?
So that's why we will use an animator and to make that. As in, like I was saying, like we can do, like you could probably go to GPT-5 now and nano-banana and take like a simple, like let's say you took your circle, Wes, and we turned it into, I don't know, a little character, and it has some motion. It's like bobbing up and down. We could probably get like a 4 sprite simple idle animation. But if you wanted him to like have a walking animation in like 8 directions and things like that, it might be easier at this stage to just find a sprite sheet to like bring into the project. Although honestly, like I haven't tested it in a while, but the models are getting good enough where you could probably, with a bit of patience, get something that kind of works together, as long as like your art style is a little bit like pixelated and simple.
So in ChatGPT, there's the memory feature where over time it's like constantly learning kind of who you are and what you want. Has that, does Cursor have something similar to that? Has a long memory or some gigantic prompt that you've kept over time to like keep it coherent with the point of the game been an aspect in the way you've developed this?
Yeah, they actually have this feature that they added recently. It's like, I'm trying to find it specifically right now on my cursor, but it's literally like a toggle that you say like add on memory, and you just toggle it on. And then it tries to remember things that you like and the way that you kind of do things. It's still not perfect yet, but it's starting to have like some awareness where, like if I add a card to the game, there's a certain subset of rules that I want to do consistently, and it's getting better now if I'm doing that without making some of the mistakes that I used to make. So I think that's the idea.
Yeah, and it also seems just like watching you problem solve over and over again. There's lessons in there that an AI might pick up on and like, oh, this is kind of what he's going for. Let's try to remember that. And, I know that's a kind of a bigger problem in all of the AI space right now, but that's an interesting to think about.
So for the sprite sheets, here's the problem is there's a million companies that popped up out of nowhere all saying that they do this thing, and most of them are crap. That's not what they do. I feel like there's one that is actually doing this and doing this really well, where you go in there and you design a pixelated character, right? And you can do it the isomorphic or 2D or whatever, top down, however you want it to. And you design them with like a wizard with a hat and whatever staff. And then it generates all of the pixels for movement, attacks, everything for you. And it's like it's like a monthly fee that you do it. I saw it. I played around with it just a little bit. And I can't find
Diffusion.ai? retrodiffusion.ai? Is that what you're thinking of?
Maybe Retro Diffusion. Well, tell us about that. Is that any good?
It does, like, it's not our art style for this game, but I have played around with it and I have got like really clean. I'm just getting it in right now.
Okay.
Let's see if we can.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask, like, are there tools that do this, or do you think they will be? Because if not, then somebody listening needs to create it, because this thing is going to be big, and it seems pretty simple to do something like that. You just, again, figured out how to make it good.
I totally agree with you. Like, I feel like, there's Cling and all these models that are really good, but what they don't do is extract it frame by frame. And so, I can create the animation that I want. I can go start frame, end frame, and I say do an idle 1 second animation. I can get what I need, but then I can't extract the frames easily. So it seems like an easy enough tool to build. We can have a look at this tool if you want to have a look at the, here we go. Here's our wizard. And now we go, here's our walking idle, but here's your 4-angle walking. Let's see what we got.
And so
I think this is limited to this art style.
I see. But you have it locally, right? So you're paying them. But I mean, this is something that you've downloaded. Is it open source, or it doesn't look like it, right? Because you got credits and stuff.
No, this is like a site, retrodiffusion.ai. Let's say
okay, gotcha.
A wizard holding a banana.
Why would a wizard need a banana?
I guess nano-banana.
Nano-banana got released today.
Tiny banana.
It looked pretty good based on some of the stuff that I did for image editing specifically. Surprisingly good.
I can't wait to play with it. I've seen nano-banana stuff popping up a lot in my feed today.
Here we go. It doesn't look like it's holding a banana.
But it's like a great, but like a Super Nintendo character for an RPG. Man, and throw a large language model behind him so you could chat with him all day.
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
But pretty cool. So like you could just throw this in your game Wes really easily. And then now it's a wizard, shoot, and then you can change to like a fight. Like these things I haven't done, like catch, let's say like burning flame. I haven't actually played around with this too much. But yeah, theoretically, as long as this is the art style you're happy with. But for the art style that I'm after, I haven't seen a tool yet to do the idle animations. But yeah, definitely keep my eye out for one. Would love to see one.
Yeah, just because you've probably been searching around and experimenting with tools, what has stood out with you? Either ones that you're using in the game or ones that you probably would if the game had different styles or was more 3D oriented?
I do use Cling and Midjourney sometimes for ideation. So one just fun idea is I take a screenshot of the game. Oh, here we go. So here's like a fire that it generated as well. It's pretty good. Let's see if I can go into my Cling and video.
Yeah, especially maybe there's anything with like 2D to 3D.
But this the tool you said had issues exporting it into frames, right?
Yeah, honestly, I really use this just for exploration and not for actual. There's actually not too much to show you here, but I can I have a lot of the characters, saying attack or shooting a fireball, and I just want to kind of visually get some ideas because sometimes it'll draw a 360 or it'll do something interesting, and then I'll send that to an animator. But nothing that I'm pulling and actually using.
Yeah, and we're gonna
what about tools where you give it a 2D image and you get a 3D mesh out of it? Have you heard of anything?
There's actually quite a lot in that space. Just because this game isn't 3D, I haven't actually played around with them. I've bookmarked some just that I've seen on Twitter, which I can kind of pull up, but I haven't actually used any. I'm more just kind of following for like a future game. If I, here's like app.scenario. I think that there's quite a few now. They look pretty cool.
The one that I saw was pixellab.ai. And so what they do is they have kind of this, they're 2D images, but they almost have like a little skeleton that gets generated as well. And so it seems like they're able to keep consistency across characters, across generations a lot better.
Yeah, I have seen a tool called Cartwheel AI or something, where you have the kind of skeleton of a humanoid figure and then you can do like sitting, dancing, spinning, and then it moves that structure, the bone structure around, and then it's on you to then take that bone structure and put it into like a 3D character.
Oh, that's really cool.
And
Yeah, for 3D, getting the
like
motion
that.
right. That's really cool.
So I don't know. Maybe there's some stuff we just got to do our research, test them out. I hope that there's one company out there, maybe hopefully at least one, that's doing something like this, making it easy to where you can go in there, design a character, and it's like, here's all the walking animation, jumping, fighting, whatever else you want. Export it with these tile sheets with whatever the JSON file, like you said, that shows the exact animation. Like somebody that knows what needs to be the final output and just creates that. That seems like it would really unlock so much.
That's kind of the big, in fact, Wes, that's kind of the big takeaway that I'm sort of getting from this, is that if I was, like a teenager and I was like, I want to be a game developer in the future, the skills are kind of different. Like I don't think sitting down, like learning the exact way to code a Unity game is the future. It feels like fitting together all of these tools, like what's the best AI tool for this, and then export it correctly. And what Max is learning is, actually, how would you describe that, Max? What should somebody who loves games right now and wants to be an expert vibe coder, how can they skate to where the puck is going if they're trying to build their career?
I mean, from my limited bandwidth, I guess it feels like the vibe coding tools are only going to get better. I think eventually the vibe coding tools are going to be connected to the asset generators as well, where it's like add a new enemy and it will just, it's a snake with an orchid for a head. It just designs it, it's animated, it just drops into the game. And so, I mean, right now, I think you can play around with vibe coding and push it pretty far. And then you can spend more time thinking about actual game design, game strategy. What actually do people like? Validating ideas. Because I think that's going to be the hardest skill, is actually having the taste and intuition on, how do you make a non-complicated game that has a ton of depth and is a ton of fun and is unique and interesting. That's a complicated problem.
I think taste is going to be the word of the future for a lot of this stuff, because like the technical ability, the barriers come down across all things. The amount of money needed to create stuff like this really drops. The amount of connections you need drops, right? You can just sit down in your house and develop a lot of the stuff. What makes you better than somebody else? Taste. Right? Like the final output. If everybody else goes, wow, that's brilliant, we love it, then you win. So yeah, that's a new kind of reality, I think, for a lot of people. But it's, if you're a teen and you're interested, you think you have this vision, then this might be a great area to get into.
Do you anticipate any problems getting it to the end, like over the finish line? Like, let's say your game has vibe coded and you've played it a lot and you're ready to give it to the world. Do you expect the Apple App Store or the Steam community to like have to approve your game to play, and they're going to be like, it's too bulky, or it's, I don't know. Do you see any problems with that? Or like, can you vibe code your way all the way to the final product, do you think?
TBD. Like, we can definitely put it on test flight and the Google Play, testing ground, which is cool. So, we actually use a site called Playtest Cloud, where we actually run every week. A few users play the game, and then we get to see where it's breaking and what they like and don't like. But yeah, can we get it on the App Store? I'm not sure. And if not, that'd be disappointing. But we will see. I've heard other people obviously have issues with the App Store. It seems like Steam will be probably fine. So as a worst case scenario, I think Steam should be viable.
Yeah, but I think the big thing for people to realize is this is going to allow so many people to go from just having an idea to something that somebody else can play, and they can share it through a link. Like, here's it hosted, check it out. That used to be very difficult. That used to stop so many people. Now it's being open to everybody. And if it catches fire, if it gains traction, like Minecraft did in the back in the days, or Balatro, or whatever are the big games that blew up by single developers, the rest of it can be managed. Like, you can always hire a developer to get you over the finish line. Like, if you see like just everybody just wants to get their hands on it, getting, putting the final touches on it is not going to be an issue. So, and the explosion of creativity that we're going to see, I think, is going to be just incredible.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Can we see a little bit more of the game? Because I think you were showing us some of the more advanced features. So yeah, if there's anything else, we'd love to see that. And also, you said there was some translations, maybe voice or pronunciations. How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The voice we actually do. We're using the Google text to speech to create MP3s. We run a Python script, so just any piece of text sentence that we've added into the game. Let me bounce around a bit. Maybe the final boss for Act 1 is worth showing. We've got our boss. We're just going to kill him really quickly. I'm going to skip words. Basically, now, once you kill the final boss, all of the language puzzles that you've been getting, you now get to do again to earn a boss currency to get like the most powerful upgrades. But you don't get any hints. I mean, right now I'm on advanced mode, which is particularly hard. Let's see if I know this. I think it could be Cam. So I guess there should be audio for these. So you'll see there's like spelling words. There's going to be my.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Forced.
That's a new one for me. But yeah, you get the idea. So it's a variety of different challenges, and I'll quickly go through it all. Oh, okay. These are going to be listen and match, so we can't hear it. But yeah, and now you got your shop where you get your boss currency and you can buy things. You know, for example, a remove heal, and then now you go into the next act, and now we're in like a new scene where we're in the gardens, different kind of garden related monsters, different types of enemies, actions, things like that. So, yeah, I guess we've also got a learn mode that I've just literally worked on really recently, where you can earn kind of one-time use power-ups in the game by doing actual lessons. And so the idea is good. I want to encourage, I want everything that you need to be fluent conversational in a language, because I'm trying to become conversational in a way that is good for my brain. So you do these, and then eventually you unlock these bonuses that you kind of need because the game progressively gets harder. You have these ascension levels, and eventually, you know, you can see on Ascension 6, there's all of these modifiers that make the game more and more difficult. And so there's 15 degrees of ascension, and they get very difficult. So you're going to need to have the best starting bonuses to kind of beat them. There's also a second character who, we're still in this kind of cheat mode. This character has something called streak. So every single time you translate a word right, you earn streak. And then it has attacks where if your streak is over a certain level, then it does additional damage. But if you get a question wrong, then you lose all your streak. So each translation has more weight to it. And then he also has like the ability to turn those streak into daggers, which you can then attack with, that are like 0 cost cards. So, I mean, you can see how much like fun or thought I've had into designing the character. I'll show you another cheat. Like, these are all the cards from like one character. This is all the cards from like the second character. And the third character is coming in. So just to kind of show the complexity that we've been able to achieve in the game as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think a team that built a game like this normally would consist of? I mean, how much, or do you think you're like 10% the effort or 50% the effort that like a traditional house would be using?
So I've actually asked a few people in the game industry, because I've had like a handful of mentors that I've been showing the game and getting feedback from. And one person estimated a team of 10 and 18 months or something like that, which I don't know if that's right. But it's hard for me to know because I'm not in that industry. But I mean, the fact that with someone with no design experience, no game development experience, has done this in like 4 months. I would imagine best case scenario, this is, a few $100,000 and, at least a year and a half, if you're coding at all, particularly with the complexity of what we're doing from a language learning perspective, because we can just pump out, I haven't shown you, but we've got, French. And so now we have a new language, or is this, I don't know if that worked. But like to continually add more languages and to have all of the lessons and everything like that working in multiple languages with like voiceovers and things like that as well is definitely something that just, it wouldn't be viable pre-AI, or if it would just be very expensive. But the fact that, someone can do this with such a small budget is kind of part of the reason why I feel like now is a good time to do this.
Yeah, and imagine when you have like user feedback and you just go right into your cursor AI and you're like, hey, like they're having this problem on level 5, or this bug showed up, and it's just right. Like
Exactly.
that loop can be a little bit tighter than usual. Maybe even some ways you could automate that whole system. Just be like, hey, when the game crashes, just instantly grab that information and see what's going on.
Totally.
Yeah, like when you said, I think you said 10 people in 18 months, I was like, whoa, that's huge. But yeah, I now that I think about it, yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about the graphic designers, the coders, the people that are doing the voiceovers, the people that know how to speak the languages, music, yes, if you're hiring everybody, in house, yeah, there's tons of roles. Most of them are now replaced with an AI tool like Suno. You don't need a music designer, whatever you said, Google Translate instead of, yeah, I believe it. And holy moly, I feel like this is not fully understood by people, and it's still clunky, right? It's not the ability to vibe code something like this. There's still a lot of issues, but what happens in a year, 2 year, 5 years, like it's going to get a lot better. And I feel like people are underappreciating that.
Yeah. What in terms of copyrights or IP, do you feel like you have ended up in control of all of it? I don't exactly know. Have you actually read through everything on Suno and 11 Labs and Cursor to make sure it's yours, or find out when you get there, kind of thing?
Probably find out when we get there. Yeah, as far as I understand, there's a ton of companies that are building using Cursor for writing code and assets from these other sites. So as far as I understand, it's all commercial license. But it's not something that I have double checked.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and then
go ahead.
Oh yeah, sorry. And overall costs, I guess, of the game. Sounds like once in a while you're putting like $1,000 into this or that to kind of
good,
clean
like
up
the
edges.
overall. Yeah, I'd be curious to know what that was.
Yeah, I'm looking at my Cursor right now. Total costs. I would imagine it's somewhere around maybe $5,000, $6,000 from my Cursor to an animator to all the tools that I've used. And I've spent maybe $1,000 on coaches collecting feedback. So just more like game specific stuff, somewhere in that realm.
And how much of that is your actual tokens to just the
a
AI
lot on
model?
tokens. Like I'm looking now. I guess it actually hasn't been like, no, I'm looking like May was 1,500, June 600.
Oh,
they've gotten a lot better actually. July 500, August so far we're at 550. I feel like the models have been getting more, or Cursor been getting more generous. Like the allotment that they get, and like the models are becoming cheaper to use. So it actually hasn't been too bad.
And can you do the most convenient thing and just rock the GPT-5 over and over again? Or do you kind of like pare down your models to save money at certain times?
I switch models all the time, based on what the task is and complexity. So like if it's simple, I'll use Sonnet. I think Sonnet's like basically free. GPT-5 would be like the most used, and then 4.1 Opus is like the complex things, maybe 20% of the code or 10%.
And do you have Do you have a feature similar to deep research that you use like when you're really struggling, or is it always just kind of the model is the model?
I mean, I'll use like what I was saying before, like the board of advisors where you ask all models on ask mode and you get them to double check each other. And so I'll run it on every single strongest model and see if I can get something. Yeah, that's kind of if I'm really stuck.
What percentage of tokens, like you said, it's maybe a few thousand, like you said, 600, 500, 1,500 per month. How much of that is like you having to redo stuff or recheck stuff versus like this where it just completes it perfectly? Like if it just completed everything perfectly, what percentage of that money would you save?
Probably for this project, maybe 50, 60% is not done correct.
Yeah.
And so maybe more, maybe 60 to 70%.
That's
Yeah, there is a lot of patience and there is complexity. There's a lot of things that you hit a wall and then it's spending a few days sometimes figuring out how to get through that wall and or sometimes a few weeks. Like we have had a wall which has taken us a few weeks. But I do feel like as the models get better, you should get better. But there's been times where you spend, a few $100s in a day and achieve nothing many times.
Yeah.
And the big hurdle, is it a memory allocation issue again?
That was the biggest hurdle that we've had. We had another issue where the audio wouldn't, like if you exited the app and come back in on your phone, the audio wouldn't play. I mean, there's so many, like there's many issues that we've had that have been multi-day, just kind of thinking from like a lot of different angles to get through it.
You mentioned coaches. So if somebody's trying to get into this area, try to do exactly what you're doing, yeah, having a coach, like a one-on-one tutor would help. Any hints, anywhere to go? Like, how would you suggest people approach that?
So all the coaches that I've had is specific to game strategy, game design.
I see.
Yeah, so nothing on their vibe coding. With the vibe coding, it doesn't feel like, it feels like everyone's kind of, a pirate figuring it out, so to speak. Like they're like people that have a course, but it's like, we're all kind of just in there trying to solve this together and learning little tweaks as we go on. So it's,
yeah.
And things are changing relatively fast.
I guess it would help me because a lot of times I'm like, I wonder what a seasoned developer would do in this situation. How would they approach it? And just knowing what the best outcome is. So like with the folder structure, with the file structure, I wish I could ask somebody with tons of experience making games. Okay, like what is it? What does your project look like? What does a AAA project look like? Just to get like the best practices. So that's kind of like how I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that would have been smart had we done that, which we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that kind of gets back to that question of like a teenager is you can ask, I can imagine asking a question about the game, like make this monster do this or that. But then I can also imagine asking questions that are more intelligent for the long run, like make this modular because I want it to be reused, or something that you would kind of only know as you understand the game on a bigger level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely now in month 4, definitely like tackling complex features. Like I understand how to modularize it, break it down. I understand I definitely can think through these complicated, that learn mode to solve for that. Definitely I can move through that a lot faster because of like understanding just the structure of how I want to build it, reusing different elements within the game, using assets, how I design with all the other tools. I can just, it's still complex and I still hit roadblocks. But yeah, you're starting to learn these patterns and rules.
Yeah, well, you're a perfect example of what we hear all the time in AI is that AI is kind of coming for those like junior level jobs and then kind of moving up the stack. Like you seem like you're kind of being forced on your first game to be the project manager, the essentially expert who's been through the war so many times and needs to make the strategic decisions. And it's interesting seeing you do that from the ground up. A junior you're like a junior senior developer. Like first time in as somebody who needs to be over many other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's the process now. Yeah.
And so this might be like a privacy issue or whatever. So feel free to say no. I'd love to see a screenshot if you can, of the cursor of the file structure. Is that possible? Feel free to say no, because there might be some proprietary information or whatever.
If you say no, we'll cut it out of the podcast.
We'll cut this whole me asking the question out, so don't even worry about that. But if that's something that you could share, because again, I'm really fired up after this to do a tutorial for people, and just maybe building something and trying to figure this stuff out. But yeah. Because I know the folder structure, the file structure is something that I've struggled with a little bit. I'm not exactly sure how to organize it in a way that helps these LLMs. It's interesting because, like, I think Andre Karpathy was saying how in the future it's likely that the file structure will be dictated by what's best for the LLMs. So if it means like 1 million tiny files, that's what we'll do. Okay, so you have your assets and you got your...
A lot of this is, I mean, some of these files, like something that I'd say that I've gotten better at is understanding, okay, cool, like this new player or character, we call it Veiled Fang, it's going to have like a ton of effects that are going to be specific to the cards that are going to be, so I just want to make sure that we call for that in the combat scene at the right moment so that we don't have to bloat that file with that. So I'll specifically ask for that. And had I not asked for that, it would just continually bloating the main file. That's like an important thing to be aware of, like all the different enemies, like different effects. But a lot of this is again something where the better that you kind of have a sense of the entire project, the more you can kind of
right.
These are all of the different like images that we have in the game, just to show you like how many assets that we have.
And so the ones that have the PNG and the JSON next to it, those would be the sprite sheets.
Yeah. I mean, like, let's have a look at a spreadsheet. There's a spreadsheet.
Boom. Okay. That's what that looks like. Interesting. Okay.
Again, like if I would do this again, I would have in assets images, I would have backgrounds, enemies. Like we haven't organized this, so I often want to reuse an element, and I just ask the LLM to try to find what I remember it is, because sometimes I don't remember like the naming convention. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think that's kind of.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you manually create the folders, or is there something you tell the LLM to make sure that it's doing that?
Most of the time, I would just ask for the LLM to do it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
That's amazing. Are you tempted to just go in there and kind of organize it more human? Like, do you want to say to it, like, rename everything in some sort of pattern and all that? Or is that just extra work?
It's too late now. Like, because, I mean, not that it would be that complicated, but like, if you think about it, we're calling for these files within like a certain file structure. And so we would have to find every place that we call for that file, and then replace like the file structure. And so it's probably not worth trying to neaten it up to like then have to figure out all of the places where that asset was called for and try to get the new file structure.
Yeah, it's just a new way of thinking about games. It's amazing.
That's interesting.
Was there a couple moments or stories you could tell us where you were just surprised and impressed, like where you thought, wow, this is pretty exciting and pretty fun, like you got sort of that feeling of excitement just sitting there talking to it?
I mean, well, a couple of like examples. One is like just like when you're using like the newest model, and then it just you say design, like I want to build this feature, and sometimes I'll just take a stab at a big feature just to see how it approaches it before I'll like itemize it and break it down into tiny details. And it'll just think of something where I'll be like, oh, that was cool. Like a screen check when an enemy hit, or the way that it'll display text, when like the boss is like about to do a powerful thing and like the screen goes dark and then it appears and it's like all ominous, and it's better than what I had envisioned. And so a lot of the time where I'm like, oh, that was like cooler. Like it's really fun when you have an idea and it's better. And probably the other thing is just playing the game. Like I have played the game now, outside of just playtesting the game. I played it 20 hours just as a fan of the game, like enjoying the game. And I'm literally, I don't want to play too much video games because I find them too addictive. So, but I want to learn a language. I want to have something to do productive within my downtime. So I'm like solving, like this whole like AI revolution and having personalized software. It's like solving a problem that I have specifically, which is I want to learn a language. I want to make it more fun. I want to have productive downtime. And so I built something where I'm now actually getting the desired outcome. And I'll play the game sometimes for an hour and a half, and I'll be really like invested in the game and want to keep playing and see if I can beat the final boss. And that's been really kind of like surprising, where it's like I've actually made something that I'm really enjoying. And so I'm excited to see. I mean, we're going to do a soft launch soon, where we've done like small opens, but we're going to launch it up to a few hundred people soon. So we can start collecting more feedback and data. So that's probably the next big thing, is just to say, like, we've got some good feedback, but like, do people want this thing that we built? And is there a demand? So excited to I'd say that's like the next big milestone to kind of see where we go from there.
Yeah, you will probably go down in my head, down in history as like the first time I remember somebody who wanted to learn something and they decided to use AI to make a game. Now, it did take you 4 months, but eventually that'll be 3 and 2 and 1. And someday it'll probably just be a one shot. I'm interested in learning about owls. Like, make me a game that teaches me everything about owls.
Yeah.
And some kid will just boot that up in 1 minute,
Massively. Yeah. Like, imagine you just go, okay, I like Minecraft and I want to learn math. And then it's just, cool, come back an hour later, and then that's what you're doing.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And the fact that you're playing it for enjoyment, I think that's the ultimate test. And that's a good sign. And I think that's where everything's going. If we can build games that are vibe coded, that we get fun enjoyment out of playing, game over, so to speak. Like, it's going to disrupt a lot of things. I'm very excited.
Game over. He's got the pun in there.
Game over. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to send you guys a build if you guys want to check it out.
Of course.
Are you guys iPhone or Android?
Android
and my
for
phone.
me.
Android.
I have a MacBook though, so whichever.
Okay, cool. Well, I've got an iPhone build ready. The Android is still a little buggy, so yeah, I can send it across.
Can we cover it on the channels? Like, if we do a video about it, is that okay?
Yeah, I want to have our landing page up to like get waitlists. Should hopefully be up this or next week.
Okay.
So that way we have a place to like drive interest. But yeah, from that point onwards, we want to collect people that are interested in the idea, both from like want to work on it and want to play it.
Yeah, and if we take our time editing this, it might be out by the time we publish it. So there's a chance that there's a link down below. We'll we'll put something down. So, all right. Well,
let's make sure to cover everything. Like, what else do you want us to tell about your project? Like, just anyone who's just fascinated with you. Are you going to do a course? Do you have a personal website? Do you want people to just follow the main project page? Tell us all the links they should know about, all this stuff to get involved.
So I'm at Max Hertan on Twitter, or just maxhertan.com if you kind of want to see what I've been up to. I mean, we're at the stage, like the plan is to do validation, and if it works, then maybe raise some money and try to build this into like a studio where we launch a series of games. So if people are doing impressive work when it comes to like vibe coding in games and have something that they want to show me, I'd love to see it if they're interested or excited about the project. And if they're excited about actually learning a language in a more fun way, then we should have languagemana.com up at hopefully by the time of this release.
That's very good.
They can sign up to play like a free beta while we're kind of still improving the game.
That's okay. So that's language.
We'll make sure those links are in the description. Really cool. Anything else?
Yeah, cool. Everything sounds amazing. So yeah, everybody check it out. We'll have all the links down below. We'll make sure they're all spelled right and everything's live. And thank you so much for being here. This was amazing. So fun, so interesting. Hopefully it was inspiring for people. If you want to get into it, I think right now is an incredible time to get into vibe coding. And we'll see if that word survives or not. But the idea is going to definitely go big. I think the idea of being able to create whatever you want. So with that said, thank you so much, Max. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you in the next one.